Hello and welcome to Waylander's Wandering. Today I'm going to be showing you how I painted my striking scorpions from Kill Team Salvation, he says. Yes, Kill Team Salvation. And without further ado, let's move over to the painting area and get right on with it. First things first, we will select our miniature and then, which I have previously obviously built, and primed with matte black from a Colour Forge. But the first process we're going to do here is take a little of our Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White and get a dry brush, which we will wet and then dab the water off, test on the hand. We're leaving no obvious wetness on the back of my hand, but it feels cool to the touch. And we will then take a little of this Bold Titanium White and in a downward motion dry brush a zenithal highlight on the miniature. A similar effect can be achieved with an airbrush. In fact, a better effect can be achieved with an airbrush, but seeing as so many of you guys out there still don't use airbrushes, we'll do it this way, which gives us the same finish, but you know, takes a little longer. And the reason that we damp our brush is that way we don't get that horrible chalky graininess on the finish. Oh, let's pop him back on the painting handle. There we go. There we go. And as you can see, I'm using the largest of the Army Painter Masterclass. This is the Masterclass Mighty Dry Brush. I will probably swap it out in a moment for a slightly smaller one. I can get into some of these nooks and crannies that this the head of this brush is just too big to get into, like under his legs there. So we'll get the teeny tiny size. There's a teeny tiny size. There we go. The teeny tiny size, which is again the Army Painter Masterclass Miniature Dry Brush. And again, we'll wet it, dab the excess water off, test on the hand for cool but not wet, get a little bit of paint on there, work most of it off, and dry brush using our same downward motion all over. So I will finish dry brushing this fella and get back to you momentarily. Now that the dry brushing has had time to cure, we are now going to go and paint in all of the parts that we want green, which is basically his armor, the weird things on his hair, and pretty much everything except his weapons, to be honest, with Citadel Contrast striking Scorpion green. Though if you want a, I don't know, a darker green, I suppose, you could always use Dark Angel's green. Now the reason we're wetting this brush is getting a little bit of water up into the ferrule there will help prevent paint getting whipped right up in there and prolong the life of your brush. And to do this, I'm using a Citadel base coat brush. So working quickly and moving the paint around, we're going to go in and paint all the areas we want green. I'm not worrying too much about if we splodge any paint anywhere else, because that can be tidied up later. And we will bash through lickety split. So I will bingly bong a load of striking Scorpion green onto this guy. making sure it's relatively heavy but not, falling unsightly puddles, and of course working quickly enough that we can move the paint around, not going back to areas that have already begun to dry, because that will tear the surface of your paint where it is starting to cure and essentially cock up your model. Anyway, I will carry on with this and get right back to you. Now that we've aligned the striking scorpion green sufficient time to cure, and it's looking pretty good, I think. It's time to move on to the next stage. For this we will be using Citadel Contrast Black Legion and my trusty Army Painter character brush to block in all the areas that we want black, which will be the chainsword, shuriken pistol, his hair, these dibbly bits in the back, and probably these pipes. So let's crack on with that. And now, because we've already got the striking scorpion green on there, we get to the, I suppose, difficult bit of this kind of painting, where we are having to be extra careful because, well, to be quite honest, if you doof up with contrasts, even at this fairly early stage, it's kind of difficult to come back from it. So we'll be nice and careful. We'll get some of this Black Legion, which quite frankly is the best black paint Citadel have ever done, and block all the black bits in. It shouldn't take too long. So, as a reminder, we've got his shuriken catapult, pistol, sword, his hair, these extra bits of equipment, which are essentially spare magazines and a grenade. And I'll get all that blocked in and bring you back once they're all nicely done. With the Black Legion nicely cured, it is time to block in an off-white, for which I'm using Citadel Alpha Grey, all the bits that we don't really want green or black and aren't going to have a good effect with black or green on top of them. So we will take the Alpha Grey, thin it as slightly, and things like this spirit stone on the hilt of his sword. It's on. I think that will be a spirit stone there on its headdress piece, so that can be done. We won't do his face because that's going to be contrast paint. We have a rather large spirit stone here on his chest. Okay. There are plenty of other lumps and bumps, such as here and here and here, and all over him basically, that look kind of like spirit stones, but I'm not going to do them as spirit stones because, honestly, rank and file troops, there's only so much time in a life. But we will block in his scabbard and the spirit stone on there because, well, the contrast brown that I'm going to do for the leather covers a lot better on that. That in there. And we'll come in this side as well. I'll carry on doing all of this blocking in the white, and I'll bring it back. We will also be doing these ribbons as well, by the way. And for those of you who are paying attention, I'm now using a Rosemary & Co. size 0 brush because it's got a beautiful point on it. And, well, frankly, I like them. So I will carry on with this and bring you guys back in. For the next stage, I'll be sticking with my Rosemary & Co. brush, but I will be using Vallejo Express Color Plasma Red for the sash on his arm, Vallejo Express Color Dwarf Skin for his skin, and Vallejo Express Color Copper Brown for the leatherwork on his holster and belt. So we'll start with this, put a couple of drops on there, and we'll throw a miniature on the table, and then come in and give a nice, relatively heavy again, coat of the copper brown on these areas. Give us a nice leather effect. Of course, skipping painting the spirit stone that we picked out in the previous stage. Of course, you don't have to do your leather brown the same as I do, but I just think it contrasts nicely against green and gives us another colour to look at. It's always good. So again, coming across here, it's a fairly quick job. Again, we'll try not to get any paint on that spirit stone on his belt buckle there. So moving on to the dwarf skin. Again, just a drop or two. And coming in very carefully around his face, trying not to get any on his hair or the armour. We'll essentially just touch it in. And again, because we're being careful, we'll try not to get any paint in his mouth because that will save us time later. And come in and do all this. You can go, if you're not confident about painting eyes on miniatures, you can go kind of heavy here around the eye socket, which will leave a deep shadow around the eye, like so. And you can just go, well, these eyes are very deep shadow, but I didn't paint them. Always works. But there we go. I'll do the red off camera and then bring you in for the metallics and the spirit stones, which I will demonstrate clearly. So back with you in 2 shakes of lamb's tail. With the leatherwork face and the sash painted, it is now time to attack the metalwork, and for these I will be using Vallejo Model Colour Gold and Vallejo Model Colour Gunmetal Grey. Starting with the Gunmetal Grey, put a drop or two on there, like so. And again, taking my Rosemary & Co. which I believe I said was a 0. It's not, it's a 00 brush. We will do the teeth on his chainsword, which we can get very quickly like so. Try not to get any on the black parts of the blade. So just lift the colour ever so slightly. Give it something to kind of focus on and have a look at. And the same on the back. Very carefully up the blade like so. And for the very end ones, where we can see a little bit more exposed, we'll just have a little bit more black on, and then quickly in between the teeth, and it's done. I think we'll also do the ribbing on this pipe here. In a kind of light, almost dry brushing method, so that we hit the ridges on the pipe and not so much into the depths there. Again, to give it a little bit of texture. And we don't need to worry too much about every little bit, because we're looking at a suggestion of metallic rather than a solid metallic finish on this. We get that kind of look, which I think kind of works. I'm going to leave these pipes here on the back of his scorpion's sting as they are. A quick rinse, and we move on to the gold. A couple of drops of gold on here. Now the gold is going to be the hilt of the sword, the surround on any spirit stones that have a surround on them, such as the one on his chest there, and any other sort of I don't know, shiny trim bits that we can see. Shiny trim, there's a nice phrase for you. So ignoring the actual handle part of the hilt, which we'll leave black, we will come up and we will block in gold all the rest of the hilt, and using the side of our brush, there's a little bit of patterning there, some sort of Aeldari rune work, which we will fill in just like so, just to pick it up around that spirit stone there, across the hilt. So I will carry on blocking all of this gold in and bring you in for the end game, which will be the spirit stones. Now that we have all those metallic bits finished, it is time to do the spirit stones, of which I've decided on, is it 1, 2, 3, and tiny little one on his head there, so 4. Right, so I'm doing mine red. You can do whatever colour you choose, but the method is pretty much going to be the same. So we will take a base colour, in this case corn red, and apply it to the gem, making sure we only hit the gem and nothing else. And the little one on his head, just like so. And we're using these paints straight from the pot, as you can tell, because we do want a kind of immediate opacity as they're done. Unlike a normal highlight with gemstones, we will then take the shade colour, in this case corn red, and apply it to the top of the gem. So if we assume the light is coming from sort of, well, here, that would leave the sort of top right of the gem in the corn red, and again top of the gem there, tiny little touch on that one, and touch of corn red along the top edge of the one on his sword blade. Moving along quickly, we will then take Wild Rider Red as our highlight colour, and very slightly along the bottom of the gemstone, like so, the opposite side, with a small daub, small line if you will. It only needs to be a tiny little bit, not like that, because that foofs everything else. So if you do make a mistake like this, get your brush, wet it thoroughly, and pick up as much of the paint as you can. And then come in with your thumb, bosh, done, clean. So we'll have another quick try at that, preferably without the mistake this time. And again, tiny little bit on the bottom of the gem, like so, and the same on the one headdress. Now, what should make these pop is we take a colour like, this is a white scar, or any other pure white. We have bold titanium white as well. God, that's a terrible paint. That paint is horrible. Let's give it a good old rattle. That's a bit better. And the very tip of your brush, we need a little tiny drop. And come in at the top of the gem as close to the shade line as you can. There's a little tiny dot there, and that will represent where the light is sparking off it. And that is pretty much it. I think I'm going to actually go through and edge highlight some of the green, his face, and some of the black, just to give it that little bit of pop, maybe a little bit on the sash there, just to give them some pop. Base the miniature to match the rest of your army, and well, that's your lot, mate. So there we have it, one striking scorpion, complete and battle ready. All nicely based with a Martian crust type base to contrast against the green of the armour, along with some pale beigey coloured tufts just to give it that little bit of pop. All in all, a nice quick job, and I think it looks pretty fine. So if you've enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and do all those other wonderful YouTube things that make the algorithm gods pay attention to this little channel. To get pretty much all the models and materials used in this tutorial, don't forget to go to Mighty Lancer Games down there in sunny Bridlington. They will give you up to 20% off on your Games Workshop order based on RRP, and in return they will give me a little kickback. So everybody wins. Mighty Lancer win because they get a new customer, I win because I get a kickback, and you, dear watcher, get up to 20% off your purchases. Absolutely fantastic. As ever, I've been Waylander, you've been absolutely awesome. I love all your faces, and goodbye.